Welcome to the Diabetes Revolution podcast with Dr. Sarah Townley, the type 2 diabetes coach, clinical pharmacist, and mom of 7 angels. You don't have to struggle and fight with your blood sugars for the rest of your life. I'm here to teach you the skills you need to control and even reverse this disease. There is such a thing as getting off your meds and creating a future free from diabetes. And you can have it too. Let's get down to business. Hello, my dear, lovely friends. I think of you, my listeners, every day. So I'm happy and grateful to be with you, to connect and share and geek out with you again today. I want you to know that even though my podcast episodes are not coming close together right now in my life, I want you to know how important it is to me that when I do put together something for you to listen to, that it is to a standard that I hold for myself to make it as rich, deep, and meaningful and applicable, helpful as I possibly can, because I want each and every episode to actually change your life. Thanks for joining me again today. And I do want to catch you up on some things in my life with some inspiring reflections to go alongside the news before we get started. Right now, I'm just appreciating all the ways I've been smacked up the head with amazing real-life examples of just how resilient human beings are. I've told you before, I know that God shows me things in patterns. And as I was coaching one of my incredible, wonderful, powerful clients yesterday, I had this realization and I saw the pattern, y'all. And I was like, bruh, can you tell I have teenagers? So I was coaching my client and I was sharing about recent events in my life, and specifically that I just returned home from visiting my uncle in Kentucky before his imminent open heart surgery, and that everything had gone remarkably well with his surgery. There wasn't a single thing during surgery or for the days since that wasn't ideal, and I'm so grateful for that. And then I shared that my father-in-law was here visiting and how seeing him this time has been such a blessing, because since he lost his wife of 49 years 1 year ago, this is the first time that I've really seen him laugh and be happy and look forward to things in the future and want to create something again. It's been just devastating to see him deepen his grief. So watching the life come back into him has been a miracle. And then I was telling my client about this intense experience I had hiking rim to rim with my husband in the Grand Canyon last month, where we met up with a dear friend in the bottom of the canyon and an unexpected turn of events unfolded. So Alex and I had planned this trip for like 6 months and kind of last minute invited a close friend to join us. So he started on the south rim and we started on the north rim. And somehow we timed it just right that we ran into each other pretty close to the Colorado River, which is super cool to round a corner and see your friend suddenly in the deepest chasm of the earth. Anyhow, we had to ascend 5,000 feet over the 9 miles going back up to the south rim. And as it went, our friend became dehydrated, which if any of you know anything about this hike, it's probably one of the worst things that you should avoid. Plus, it was super hot with a lot of direct sun on us going up. And we got about 2 miles in and he couldn't continue because his heart rate was like 155 and it wasn't coming back down even while we were sitting still for 10 minutes. So to make it short, it took a lot of water, electrolytes, and cold water dumped over the head for him to be able to go like small spurts and then a little bit longer and then a little bit longer with lots of breaks. But eventually he was able to turn it completely around and he climbed out of that canyon. I am not exaggerating when I say I actually thought for a moment he was going to need a helicopter to get him out of there. So seeing him recover and put his body through that punishing hike straight up out was astonishing. So at that point in our conversation with my client, I was starting to see a pattern and I was having a lot of fun with it. But the best story of all popped into my head right then because the day before, I had a completely mind-blowing experience with a client that I have been coaching since the spring of this year. So at that time, when we first got going, the first couple months, she was just cruising along nicely when she hit a massive obstacle unexpectedly. She developed diverticulitis with a perforated colon, and this became a 4-month odyssey that totally took her out. I met with her a couple of times during this 4-month period, and she had pretty much lost much of her cognitive function as well as a ton of weight and muscle mass. She had become severely depressed, something that she had a history of, and she couldn't barely make decisions about what to eat, for example, let alone handle all the many social responsibilities with church, her community, and her professional life that she'd been expertly juggling before her hospitalization. So when I saw her just the other day, completely restored, even with the sparkle she's known to bring to the room she's in, I was dumbfounded and I was so, so thankful. I mean, she was talking a mile a minute, full of vitality and personality, having resumed all of her numerous posts again, even going to gym classes and managing her blood sugars again. And she shared that she had restarted her mental health medication and it completely turned things around. It was nothing short of a miracle. And I left that meeting thinking, no way could I have ever hoped for or imagined such a miraculous improvement. And it got me thinking about the resilience in each of these stories. And I saw how powerful the human spirit is. The human spirit is such a force of nature that it creates miracles. Open heart surgery, life-threatening dehydration in the bottom of a 100-degree Fahrenheit canyon, losing your lifelong mate suddenly, losing your mind for 4 months. Like, what can your spirit not overcome? So I share these stories with you because I want you to know and revere the power of your spirit, your will, your desire. Get ready to be blown away by how your spirit can move mountains. On this same coaching session, my client said to me that I told him something months ago that really got him excited. And I know other clients that I have worked with have heard the same idea, and it had a strong impact on them. It's this idea that your strongest, healthiest version exists in the future. That you are creating now, in this moment, the version of you that is thriving with more energy, more capability, and better health than you've ever experienced before in your adult life. Can you get excited about that? I don't ever want to believe that the best of me is in the past. It's still coming because I am still creating her, and she has more choice than ever before. She feels strong and amazing in her body. If that pumps you up, use it to your benefit too. Live in possibility, not limitation. One of my friends in the coaching profession, his name is Chris Smith, says possibility exists. Limitation is created. Living in the land of possibility feels expansive and fun. And I'm inviting you to live here with me. Today, I'm bringing you a thoughtful discussion on habits. Behaviors, often tiny, that amount to the results you are creating in your life. It's these boring little habits that you have repeated over and over again that compound to get you the visible results you have in your life, whether it's your health, your marriage, your finances, your career. It's almost never the one thing you did that one time that creates the overall state of your health or like your professional acumen, right? But it's usually a handful of behaviors executed consistently. Dang it, there it is, consistency, that generates the outcomes you have in your life. And I've been playing around with this idea up close while I've been participating in my own coaching experience. Right? I believe so much in coaching that I buy coaching. Can you believe it? My coach created an offer where the focus is not on the goal, but rather on the process. It's rather clever because it encourages each of us to identify the habitual behaviors or actions that we want to take that drives progress toward the goal. We have a common goal in this small group of women to, quote, lose weight, which for me centers around continuing to reduce body fat and gain muscle mass. But each of us are very different in our goals and habits. It doesn't matter though, because it's consistently executing our desired habits that we're challenged by and we receive coaching on. And I'll share with you the habits I selected and the challenges I have encountered because I think it will help you in your own process. At first, my biggest point of resistance or opportunity for growth, if you look at it differently, had to do with my habits around eating sweets. So I've probably shared with you before that my desire for sweets is my biggest obstacle and has been in my own health journey. And I took some time to reflect on this and came back with that I can have sweets with a clear plan. So this is what I call exceptions, and you may have heard me teach this before on this podcast. So if I plan the treat at least 24 hours ahead of time and either write it down or tell an accountability partner my plan, then I can have sweets. But as I got into it, I continued to experience desire for sweets daily and often at certain times. So I saw that I had conditioned myself to expect treats after eating a meal or after waking up from a nap. So every day I was managing my desire and it was taking more energy than I wanted to invest, right? Like sometimes it's just downright annoying, right? It's just this gnawing, nagging desire that feels almost like a monkey on my back sometimes. So I decided that I wanted to decondition these habits. Science shows that neurons can be wired together and will fire together when that happens. You might relate to this. You might notice that you tend to eat or snack at certain times of day, in certain environments, with certain types of food or certain people. For example, I'm thinking of a client who liked to eat something crunchy, salty, sweet while she sat in a certain place in her living room with her tablet playing certain games at certain times of day. When all the conditions are met, the brain wants to check all the boxes. So if she sits in that place at that time of day, her brain might be like, where's the tablet? Where's the snacks? You know, it's like that something's missing, right? For me, after a healthy meal, my brain is like, let's go to the pantry. Let's go see what's in there. Not answering that prompt feels uncomfortable. It feels like not answering the door when someone rings the doorbell and not even getting up to see who it is. It's like a restless feeling, right? Something's missing. That's just your brain firing pathways that are connected together. It's been conditioned to do that. You have taught it that with repetition. It's learned and it can be unlearned by deconditioning those connections. And it takes consistency and repetition, not answering the doorbell. What I want to create is not thinking about, not triggering a craving for sweets at those times anymore. Ideally, what I would create is that I'm not really a sweets person. Sweets are not a big deal to me. I can take it or leave it. A feeling of apathy around sweets. So the habit I'm practicing is not having sweets daily instead of doing the pre-planned sweets. When my brain triggers the habitual craving under these specific conditions, I don't have them. I just focus on the purpose behind the discomfort, which is that I am deconditioning this habit and what that will bring me, which is freedom. In the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, which you have likely heard of because it's such an iconic, helpful book on how to, quote, build good habits and break bad ones, he gives practical, actionable advice on how to decondition habits you want to break. So he lists them out in 4 categories. And the inverse of these is how you build new good habits. And we'll go into that next. But let's just start with breaking bad habits. So the first piece of advice is to make it invisible. This means to remove the cues from your environment. If you live alone or with someone who supports your ideal lifestyle habits, you're super lucky because you can clean up your pantry and your fridge so that temptations are few in your home. The second piece of advice is to make it unattractive. For those of us monitoring our blood sugar, having a high blood sugar after eating something you don't tolerate is unattractive, right? A different example, and also a very clever example I've heard, is from a woman who only washes her hair after she works out. Now, those ladies out there with long hair, you know what we're talking about. Like your hair just gets really sweaty and gross after a workout. So if she doesn't do her workout, she doesn't wash her hair. Unwashed, greasy, flat hair is unattractive. Okay, the third component is to make it difficult. Make that bad habit difficult. This would essentially be putting steps or obstacles in the way of the undesired behavior. Like putting the ice cream in the basement freezer. Or the concept of exceptions that I shared earlier, creating a written plan or verbal agreement at least 24 hours ahead of time is absolutely a way to make it difficult. And the last piece is to make it unsatisfying. This is like creating some kind of pain or penalty if you don't do your desired behavior, or if you do an undesired behavior, like if I break this agreement with myself, I will buy my kids a 12-pack of Mountain Dew. I actually made that agreement with my kids one time, and there was no way I was going to break it. A way to make it unattractive and difficult and unsatisfying to miss a workout is to have an accountability partner that you leverage to stick to your food or your workout plan. So we've talked a lot here about breaking bad habits. Now let's shift to how to create good ones. Habits that move you toward health, empowerment, and well-being. Bring something into mind right now that you know would move you even 1% forward. Could it be eating veggies with every meal? Taking your meds or your supplements on time? Could it be getting to bed at a certain time or walking after meals? Or hitting like a protein intake goal? Just pick something. Let's use eating out too frequently, or specifically, eating fast food. And let's say the problem is usually dinner time after work when you're tired, hungry, and short on time. The behavior you might want to cultivate would be eating fresh whole food meals free of inflammatory seed oils and empty carbs. So the new habit is I eat healthy, nutritious meals for dinner every night. In order to implement this new habit consistently, you will need systems in place that make this behavior easy, right? Requiring as little amount of effort as possible. Attractive, like it tastes good, or it's appealing because it's tasty, easy, and quick. Rewarding, it creates stable blood sugars and you feel good after you eat it. So right away, I can appreciate that in order for me to consistently eat this way, I will need to plan ahead. I will need to think about and have shopping already done for these times that I'm tired, hungry, and short on time. With all my clients, I typically provide and brainstorm plenty of these kinds of meal ideas for each unique individual's preferences, food aversions or sensitivities, and lifestyle and schedule. And I do it in two categories: meals that need little to no prep and meals that require prep and cook time. With a list ready to go of ready-to-eat options, you can stock your home with supplies. And with cooked meal options, you can plan which days to cook them and run to the store for ingredients. When you do the legwork, you remove obstacles so that it's, as James Clear says, obvious, already planned, attractive, something you find appetizing, easy, requires little effort, and satisfying, gets you great results. You can even make it a habit to do your planning, say once or twice a week. I find that I plan about 2 to 3 days at a time, right in line with how frequently I grocery shop. I don't go waste precious time at the store without planning at least a couple days worth of meal ideas. If I need inspiration, I literally Google, what should I cook for dinner tonight? I did that yesterday, and we had the most delicious Tuscan chicken with roasted green beans. And I also had mashed potatoes for my fam for dinner last night. Okay, so to recap, when you are looking to create a new habit, you will want to make it, 1, obvious. Use your environment to provide cues like phone reminders, Post-it notes, setting your meds or your glucometer in plain sight. And you can tie a new habit to an existing one called habit stacking, so that your one habit then becomes a trigger to a new one, like setting your food planner next to your scale. 2, you want to make it attractive. Associating a reward with a new behavior, like pairing your morning coffee, for me, that's a big reward, with planning your food for the day, or going on your walk and deciding what you're going to eat for dinner tonight. 3, you're going to want to make it easy. Remove obstacles and make it really simple. Example is, I work out in my basement because then I'm not subject to childcare, driving in bad weather, setting aside a really big chunk of time, right? And then 4, you want to make it satisfying. Create a habit tracker or a reward when you execute the habit, like simply celebrating your success by sharing it with others or giving yourself something special because you're successful. Here's where I want to share a tool with you that I have found highly motivating for myself and for some of my clients who are like me in this way. I happen to love to check boxes and cross off my lists. Do you maybe relate to this? I like the satisfaction that comes from completing tasks, and if I can visualize it, it helps me be more mindful and conscientious. In my coaching group, our coach had a one-on-one intake session to start where we created a list of 8 to 10 habits that we knew were supportive to reaching our goal. What we were essentially doing in this session is asking ourselves the question, the future version of me who has reached her ideal body composition, what are her habits around food and self-care? And I came up with a list of 8 habits that do feel doable, but would be challenging to do consistently. And I'll share them with you here. And remember, these are not for you to compare yourself to. Okay, these are just mine. So the first one is I walk 10,000 steps every day. The second one is no sweets. The third one is to eat 2 meals a day. Fourth one is to eat 50 grams of protein per meal. The fifth one is that I get a plate and I sit down. This was meant to stop the casual bites of this and that I was noticing I was doing throughout the day. The sixth one was no eating past 6:30 p.m. The seventh one is bedtime by 10 p.m. And the eighth one is that I get in 3 lifting sessions per week at a minimum. My coach then created a weekly habit tracker for me that provided check boxes for each day of the week. And I love to check these boxes. We have an agreement that we aren't tracking to shame or judge ourselves when we miss a box, and we share our trackers with each other so that we can create an opportunity to reflect and problem solve when we're struggling to be consistent. The obstacles presenting to our new habits are opportunities for coaching, which could be either mind shifts or practical, real-life solution-based strategies. I can't overstate the value of having this support system and accountability mechanism. The personal breakthroughs and insights that I was able to mine out of myself may not have happened without it. For example, I saw how attached I was to my food being pleasurable and that I was prioritizing momentary pleasure over nutrition at times. And this cost me progress toward my greater desire. I saw that for me to reach my goal, I needed to accept boring food at times because the boring but nutritious food gets the job done. Letting go of my attachment to pleasure was an evolution of my relationship with food, who I'm being with food. Like, it's okay to sometimes just eat the boring things. That was a breakthrough for me, and that was just one of them. I invite you to create your own habit tracker if you think this could be supportive to bringing consistency to your desired behaviors. And I want you just to make it really simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. I want to share a couple more concepts that I found really valuable from James Clear's Atomic Habits. One was that boredom is a major threat to success. He shares that what it can really come down to when you look at those who are successful is that person's ability to do the boring, monotonous thing over and over again without getting complacent and wandering off. His solution to boring? Fall in love with boring. This certainly rang true when I asked a group of ladies in a Facebook group I belong to that's called Women 40 Plus Building Muscle and Toning what habit they have that creates measurable progress or success in their physical health. Many respondents simply stated consistency. Isn't that fascinating? The habit of being consistent with their habits, doing it even when they don't feel like doing it. And the last concept I want to share from Atomic Habits is that there is a downside to creating good habits, which Mr. Clear identifies as complacency. This can happen when your habits become so automatic that you basically become unconscious and overly comfortable, which can stop you from continuing to grow and reach mastery. To become masterful in any area, you will need a process of continuous refinement and growth. You will need to challenge yourself each time things start to feel too easy. And that is accomplished through cycles of self-reflection and decision-making. It's a core component of coaching with me. We are constantly assessing. I love the wisdom from the statement that we don't learn from our experiences. We learn from reflecting on our experiences. Because sustainability is so critical and central to the work I do with clients in designing a lifestyle that creates health and vitality, we make small shifts in behavior frequently. So we are creating new habits on small scales, reflecting on their impact and how well we are consistently executing them, and coaching to remove obstacles to consistent practice. When we're doing this week after week, we are gradually becoming habitual and then up-leveling when it feels right. I have a favorite question I ask my clients when things are feeling comfortable, and that is, Where's your next breakthrough? This is why my clients get such incredible results in a relatively short time. Like my client who last week found out she had taken her A1C from 12.3 to 5.5% in less than 4 months. Staggering success. By getting coached weekly, she was able to stay in consistent action, become habitual with her lifestyle, and drive rapid progress until she smashed her goals. And by the way, she is not an anomaly. She would tell you that if she can do it, 100% so can you. Okay, so I hope this podcast gives you the perfect mix of inspiration and practical strategies to take action in your own life and move yourself forward. Start by asking that amazing question: what habits does my healed, healthy self have? And then apply these questions. How can I make it obvious? How can I make it attractive? How can I make it easy? And how can I make it satisfying? Then ask the opposite questions for the habits you wish to decondition or break. How can I make it invisible? How can I make it difficult? How can I make it unattractive? And how can I make it unsatisfying? Use the habit tracker if that feels compelling. And if you want a guide, an accountability partner, and someone to keep you in action, send me an application through my website, www.sarahtownley.com, right this minute. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Okay, don't leave yet. You're going to want to hear about this. If you love my podcast, if I'm the only sane voice you've found on this subject, if I've already helped you, you need to check out my online course. It's a start-to-finish, step-by-step video course that teaches you all the tools you need to know to beat this disease. You can find it on my website, sarahtownley.com, along with lots of other free tools that will make taking care of your diabetes so much easier. So get over there right now. See you there.